This is how I went from being an average high school wrestler and not placing at state my junior year of high school to being a Division I wrestler who started for 3 years. If you're new to the channel, I'm Weston Wichman. If you're not new to the channel, you probably already knew that. I wrestled in Wisconsin for high school, and then I went to wrestle at UTC, which is University of Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a Division I college for wrestling. In high school, I placed second at state my freshman year, and then I didn't play sophomore or junior year at state, and then I took fourth my senior year. Then I took a year between high school and college, and then went on to wrestle in college, where I redshirted 1 year and started for 3 years. I had small levels of success in college. I definitely could have done better, definitely could have done worse. Never ultimately reached, my goals in college, but I think I did fairly well for myself. I now coach at AWA in Wisconsin, the club I also went to while growing up. Basically, I boiled down my success that I did have to 3 major factors, and getting better from, not placing as a junior in high school to wrestling, not only wrestling Division I, but starting for 3 years, I feel like is a pretty big jump. If you're, a wrestler right now in high school, you probably fully realize not only is it hard to go from not placing at state to placing at state or winning state, it's even a bigger jump to go from not placing at state to a couple of years later starting in Division I program for wrestling. Not to toot my own horn, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to make you realize that's a decent sized jump that a lot of work has to be put in to make. And so this is basically a breakdown of the plan that I had that was able to make me make these jumps. And I could have made bigger jumps. I think it's definitely possible to make bigger jumps faster than what I did. The 3 things that I think it comes down to is work ethic, belief in yourself, and becoming obsessed with the sport. So we'll start with work ethic. It's pretty similar to what people preach all the time. And I got my notes down here. I'm not very good, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'll just kind of hold them in front of me here. My work ethic is just, the big thing is just show up. If you show up every single day, it's really, really hard not to get better. Obviously, showing up's not quite enough, but it's a really, really, really good start to get to where you want to go. Be engaged during practice. This is a big one that I kind of learned as I went into AWA. By my junior year of high school, I had been wrestling year-round, I want to say since 8th grade. And so I'd already had 3 years of wrestling year-round, 365 days. Obviously not every single day wrestling, but I was wrestling year-round, doing a lot of wrestling. And my junior year, Ben Askren really kind of put it in front of my face that I need to be more engaged during practice. It's not just showing up, putting my hour and a half of time in for practice, and then going home. It's, showing up with a goal every single day for practice, paying attention to the technique being taught, and not only the big aspects of it, but the little things that make the technique work at the highest level. Practice with a purpose kind of goes into that, is having a goal when you come into practice. I had things that I wanted to get better at on my own outside of what we were working at practice, and I can work those during live, during sparring, after practice, before practice, during private lessons, on my own, coming in, wrestling with somebody. There's a lot of extra time that you can put in to work on your own things, and I think it's really, really important to have a goal for yourself as a wrestler on things that you're working, not just what coach is telling you, even though those are great things typically, because the coach thinks you're going to be successful with them. Do the extra. So kind of ties into the last one, is just, before practice, be there, right? Be there early. That's the extra. After practice, do some reps. Get 15 minutes of work in on something that you want to get better at. Come in for private lessons. Go and get a buddy and find a wrestling mat and wrestle with him, right? And just play around. It doesn't need to be drilling, doesn't need to be live. There's plenty of times that me and my brother went in the room for 45 minutes and just rolled around. Sometimes rolled around for 15 minutes, talked about positions for the rest of the time. Sometimes we didn't talk at all and we just rolled for 45 minutes. And then flip bad habits into good habits. So like I said, show up early. I was notorious for showing up directly on time when practice started. People were jogging around the room, right, starting their warm-up, and I was kind of finishing up, lacing up my shoes. I remember a distinctive switch in my mentality of before I was showing up right on time, And then when I really engaged in the sport, was trying to get better, it was like I was 15 to 20 minutes early, 10 to 20 minutes early for practice. That's also like challenging yourself. If you're picking partners that you can beat up every single day, that's probably not the best way to get better, right? Go challenge yourself, pick a guy that's better than you, pick a guy that's at the same level than you, have hard goes, challenge yourself and get yourself out of your comfort zone. Second one is belief. This one will be pretty quick here. It's pretty self-explanatory. You got to believe in yourself. That's one of the, I think major factors into achieving anything at a high level of success is you got to believe you can do it. If you don't believe you can do it, it's going to be really freaking hard to do it. Belief in your goals. Believe that your goals are actually attainable. If you have this goal that's, ultra non-attainable, you're probably not going to work very hard towards it. But if you believe your goals are attainable, go for it. And I think you can set your goals very, very high and still believe that they're attainable. In the system that you're in, believe in that. You got to believe in the system that you're in. I think there's a bunch of different ways, to be highly successful. We see that in wrestling all the time. Iowa style, Penn State, stuff like that. So there's plenty of ways to do this sport and be successful. And it's just you have to believe in that system. If you don't believe in that system, you show up every single day to practice and you're like, man, what we're working is a bunch of crap, you're probably not going to have too much confidence when you go out and compete. So just believe in your system. Put yourself in a spot where you believe in the coach that's coaching you. You believe in your teammates. You believe in your partners, stuff like that. And then also just believe with enough time and work, you're eventually going to reach your goals. And I think that just comes down to there's going to be setbacks. You're going to lose matches. You're going to, have things that don't go your way. Just keep believing that, hey, as long as I just stay on this path that I'm on and I put in the time and I put in the work, eventually success will come from it. I think a big turning factor for me was I went to Fargo my junior summer. And man, I was feeling really good in the practice room. Felt like I was wrestling with very, very high level guys at the time and sticking with them, or if not, like beating them. And then we went to Fargo and I really just had a bad competition. I went 1-2, I want to say, in freestyle. And these guys that I was wrestling close with in practice were all-Americaning and doing really, really good things that year. And it was a major setback for me. And I just really had a step back. I mean, I was upset at the time. I was really, really upset. But it was like the first time that I had to step back and be like, you know what? While I'm upset with how I competed and the results that came about, I've only been putting in, I've only really dedicated myself to the sport since the end of high school season that year, like really, really grinded. And I was like, I got this much better from the end of high school season in February to middle of July. Think about what I can do, if I just keep putting in this time and effort and I give myself a chance to have multiple opportunities at more successful spots. And that's what I did. I think that's a super important part, is being able to pick yourself back up and just realize that I just got to keep on this path. I just got to keep on this path and not go off of it. Last thing is becoming obsessed with the sport. I think this can be said different ways. This is just how I've always thought of it. And that's just your lifestyle, who you surround yourself with, what are your habits, what are you doing to better yourself outside of the practice room. And so lifestyle-wise, I think that's, your sleeping habits, your eating habits, who you're hanging around with. Are you going out and doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing? As you're getting into college, are you going out and partying? A lot of people want to have these both ends of the spectrum. They want to have, this high success in this really, really hard thing, wrestling for our case. But they also want to have this social life where they're always hanging out with their friends and, maybe doing stuff that's fun, but not necessarily, good for our goals. And very few people can pull that off. Maybe John Jones and, a couple other people. But it's like, not saying you can't go out and have fun with your friends or do stuff with your friends and family, but a lot of times we're probably going to pick the other side of the spectrum and be like, no, we got to go to wrestling practice. No, I'm not going to skip wrestling practice today. I'm going to go, rather than hang out with my friends. No, I'm not going to skip my private lesson today, even though it's extra. I'm going to go to it. No, I'm going to go wrestle today. No, I'm going to go work out today. I'm going to eat right. No, I'm going to go to bed on time so I recover correctly, and stuff like that. So just like those little things in life, I feel like really add up and make a difference. And you need to find balance, but at the same time, like if you really want something, you probably should be on, a little bit heavier on the dedication side. I think the other thing that's super important to me is film study. I started watching a lot of wrestling right around the time where I like really indulged in wrestling and focused on it. And I just feel like it made me a lot better. I just picked a couple guys that I wanted to wrestle like, and basically just watched all their matches on YouTube. And, sometimes not even once, sometimes I watch them multiple times, and I would just pick up on little things, maybe an attack that I feel like I could use, or their pacing of the match, or how they handle themselves, right? How they reset their mind when something goes bad. Things like that. I feel like you can pick up a lot of things if you just watch wrestling, and it just gets your mind thinking about it quite a bit. Your surroundings, obviously, there's that saying where it's like, you are the average of your 5 friends or whatever. I'm not a huge believer in that saying, I'll be honest. I do think it has some truth to it. And I think that, if you're around guys who aren't working very hard and stuff like that, it's easier to fall into that path. Where if you're around guys who are really working towards a goal, it's easier to fall into that path. While I think you can succeed on both ways, I do think it is easier if you surround yourself with the right people to be more successful. Yeah, so to kind of conclude this video, I know it was a little bit longer than I wanted it to, and I'm happy you stuck with me here. Work ethic, belief in yourself, and then becoming obsessed is the 3 things that I feel was most important for me. There's obviously other things. There's a lot of other things that go into it. But if you can kind of focus on those things and just stack them up and work hard, believe in yourself, and then become obsessed with the process and really fall in love with it, I think you got a good chance of making big jumps and becoming successful in the sport.